I think the biggest thing, I give a lot of credit to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of credit to my parents, man. My dad, I never forget it. He said, "Closed mouth doesn't get fed." And my mother said, "If I don't have the answer, if we don't have the answer, go out and find it." So just those things specifically created a mindset for me and all my other brothers and sisters. It's like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to be afraid in any room or any place. If I have a question, I'm going to ask it. I was one of those kids in class, like everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we understand it." And if I didn't understand it, I'm raising my hand.
Hell
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Like, I was just one of those people. And that's how we were raised to be. Like, you go out, you work. If you don't know something, you ask questions, and a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And I always try to keep that mentality, because at the end of the day, you have to find a way to continue to remain a student. It's
Mm-hmm.
real hard to go from teacher back to student, because then sometimes your pride can get in the way and you think you know everything. But it's like a student can always be a teacher, and it can, if you do your best to keep that pride away, you can remain a student and keep learning. You know what I mean? So I just always was like, look, I know that I don't know everything. I had parents who did the exact same thing. I know I don't know everything, but I'm going to go find the answer, and I'm going to continue to put myself in rooms with alignment and like-minded people to be able to get me exactly where I need to go and what I need to do.
Welcome to DFW Grit. I'm Dr. James Taylor, and I'm your host, and this is more than just a podcast. We dive into the stories of the movers, the shakers, the small business owners, the entrepreneurs, right here in the DFW Metroplex. This is your home for authentic, real stories that prove what happens when you don't back down. Let's get to work. All right, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of DFW Grit. Today, my guest is one Mr. Penny Hart. So, for a quick introduction, we met at a SCAR event, right? Networking event, collaboration event, and he reached out to me. And the coolest thing was like, hey, I want to help former NFL, former CFL. I want to help new guys understand their contracts. So, just to give you some backstory on why he is an expert at understanding the contracts. So, from Georgia. Went to Georgia State. Go Panthers. Let's see here. You were second in the school's history in receiving yards, first in touchdowns, all Sun Belt Conference, and then you made your way to the NFL, where your education on contracts, I assume, began. So went undrafted, picked up by the Colts. I even got dates here, and that was in May, and then May of 19, and then you were waived in August of 19, and then you got put on IR, and then you got waived from the IR in September. And then you got picked up by Seattle. You got put on their practice squad. You moved to the active squad for a couple of games and back on the practice squad. So this was from September to January. And then you got moved back again moved back up to the active roster. And then in December, then you got waived. And then you were re-signed to the practice squad. And then you got put back on the active roster. And then it looks like you kind of up and down between September and April. And then the following May, you got picked up by Atlanta. And now we're in 23. And then you got bumped down to the IR. And this was in August. And then in October, got released by Atlanta. And from an outsider's perspective, I don't know if you're aware of this. I was not in the NFL. I haven't had to go through the varying contract negotiations and pay scales and things like that. I imagine there's certain bumps or privileges that are either granted to you or afforded to you for active active roster versus IR versus like even in going through this, it looked like there were 2 or 3 day snippets where you were without a job until the same team that let you go picked you up again. And you're like, hey, you know what? Okay, now that I'm done with that, I want to start a gig teaching new players, how to understand contracts. It sounds like you have the education to make that kind of thing happen.
First off, thanks for having me, man. But hearing that is pretty crazy, because it almost started bringing back memories of like, I'm being brought up to the office. They're like, we're gonna have to let you go. Then they put you back on, and then they bring you down, put you back on. But it's almost like it's like a breeze, because I wasn't even thinking about those moments, you know. But to the public eye, it's a little different, because in the small spaces of getting cut and getting waived and released, you would think that, oh, like you go home and all of that, but it's really like, no, like there's a waiver period between like 24 hours, and they're like, yeah, like we're going to waive you because we got to make space for another position. So we're going to sign you back on the practice squad. So it was kind of like I already knew what was coming a lot of the time. So it was like, okay, let me just prepare. But of course, everybody wants to be on that active roster. And thankfully, I just kept putting the work in and was able to, make some good plays, make some really cool moments out of my career. But yeah, my second year, an unfortunate situation, with some things and, agents and everything like that. I didn't have an agent when they decided to sign me back. So it put me in a position where I was like, man, I'll have to sign this contract on my own. But it really opened up my mind to a different place of me understanding my business and my contract, because I actually went through and I read it and I was like, hold on, like, this is what it reads, this is what it says, and it was standard. But just doing that on my own made me be like, man, I think I may be able to do this myself, and I may be able to be a facilitator in a lot of ways of letting other people know that you, in some way, shape, or form, you need to be a semi-lawyer to some degree, knowing your business. You can't just always be delegating. You got to be able to, know how to necessarily cook a little bit to let somebody know how you like your food cook. You know what I mean? So
a couple of things just for the uninitiated. What's the difference between being waived versus being released?
Yeah, those are the same thing, being waived, just different terms. But it's like they say waived because it's actual waiving period. It's literally like a 24-hour period, or depending on the time frame, where other teams can pick you up and and give you a contract. So once that waiver period is over with, then they'll be like, okay, like if nobody picked you up, we're going to sign you back and bring you back to practice squad. Basically meaning like, okay, like your market is not as big, but if they feel like your market is pretty big, you've created a brand and done exactly what you needed to do enough for yourself to be able to stay on the team. Yeah.
So then this is a perfect segue. When in all of this, so 4 years in the NFL, 5 years in the NFL,
5,
give or take. When in that process did you realize that Penny Hart is not just a player? Penny Hart is a business.
Well, when I was younger, I mean, I said I was going to the NFL when I was 8.
Hell yeah, dude.
I was like, look, and it was crazy how it happened, because just playing in the neighborhood, I knew I was good, but I have an older brother who's 4 years older than me, and I would be playing with him and his friends, and I'm out there making it look easy. And I was like, you know what? I think this is fun. I remember the Eagles were playing the Patriots in the Super Bowl. Donovan McNabb versus Tom Brady. And I remember watching, and I was like, yeah, like that's what I'm gonna do. So, it was like that was my mindset all the way through. So, was able to get that done. Yeah.
And then so go to Georgia State. Was there NIL stuff then, or
no? No, it wasn't.
No?
It was the furthest thing from
so you
NIL.
were a student athlete.
Yeah, student athlete, staying on campus, no money, broke, man, it was something. But going in the cafeteria sometimes, and the food might not be, they might have been sitting there for a little while long, and you're just like, man, I might just get me some cereal or
you guys
something.
You didn't have the separate players cafeteria?
No, we didn't have any of that. They do have it now. So, big ups to them and the whole program, raising their level of, and doing what they need to do for those guys.
Well, and you helped pave the way to make that happen.
I mean, I would hope so, man. I really do. But that was a great university. Still connected with them in a lot of ways. They've done a great job of building that program up.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So going through all that, and then so let's get into the NFL a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, like, when did you realize in that, like, tell me about like when you read your contract, you're like, wait, this doesn't sound right. This doesn't, or I need to know more about this line here, because I imagine it's a bunch of legalese.
Yeah.
It's not something you could just pick up and be like, I like it.
Yeah. And like I said, I think I came into it like in an unfortunate situation, because I was in between agents. So it was like I didn't want to be in that place, but then I just read it. But more than anything, it was just like, oh my goodness, like this, I actually understand this
Hell
a little
yeah.
bit. Like it was a light bulb went off, and I started to just get into this space like where a lot of the guys on the team started to trust me.
Mm-hmm.
I worked really hard all the time, of course, making it to the league and doing what I had to do. But a lot of guys trusted me, and I started, talking about different business endeavors with guys like Russ and DK and Tyler Lockett, all of these different guys, because they were just friends. Freddie Swain,
Right.
Cody Thompson, all these guys that I was on the team with, because I've always just been business minded. My mom said when I was 4 years old, I asked her if Abraham Lincoln's family was getting like some type of passive income for him being on the penny. And I was
You know
like,
the answer to that?
look, and she was like, yeah, at the time she was like, I don't know,
Right?
like what kind of question is that? So
Yeah.
I've always been like pretty business minded. So coming into that situation, it just really like lit up my brain to be like, hold on, I think I can do some other things in life. But I've always been like, football is gonna end someday.
Yeah.
I have to be able to maximize off of this to be able to do some other things. And it just so happened that I love serving other people, but I love educating other people as well and being a facilitator of helping other people learn, because it does something bigger than just the education aspect. It
Mm-hmm.
exposes people to another part of their brain to expose them to brilliance. Like
Yeah.
you're brilliant, you're smart. Russell Wilson was the first person that ever called me brilliant, because
All right.
we co-consulted on a deal with Carrier, the ventilation company,
Okay.
to have a system called Abound. They ended up opening up a system called Abound that pumps ventilation or pumps more oxygen into buildings. And that was an idea that I had because Seattle, I think it was 2021, the summer, it was like 115 degrees. It got up really, it spiked up really high. But in Seattle, they say it doesn't get hot enough. So
Yeah.
they don't put air conditioning in any of the homes. So people just have like these AC units in the window
the
and
window units
everything.
and whatnot.
And I was a part of, seeing that happen. And I knew that he was somebody that, had different connections. And then him just being a friend, I was like, man, look, like maybe we could help other people by making something happen. And he instantly called some of his people and we got to talking about it. And through that process, he went on NASDAQ and was with, I think, the VP of Carrier, who ended up making the Abound system come about. That was an idea that I had to bring to him. And we ended up, I'm like, he's saying I'm his co-consultant on this, on NASDAQ.
Thanks, Russ.
Right. Thanks. I said, look, this is something, it did something for me that made me think so much further past football, even as far as I was already thinking, because I knew football would end, but I was like, man, like I'm really good at creating ideas then that can help other people, that can create like that can fill a void that may be a pain point for other people. So that was one of those moments, reading my own contract, and then moments like that.
Yeah.
Having friends with other trusted people, and then creating ideas for people that could, branch it out and make it something even bigger.
Yeah.
At the time, I didn't have any bunch of money to invest into that like he might have had or anything, but it was like it gave me a currency in my brain and created a larger spirit in me to just be like, you know what? Like I can do so much more. And even to this day, that's why, VBC is what it is today.
Dude, that's freaking nuts. And it's cool because it literally, just before we started, we were talking about collaboration. We're talking about, just it's literally about who you know. I've done past episodes on this, just in my growth as a chiropractor.
Yeah.
And I've lamented in some sense that like I could be further along than I am now if I had that kind of foresight to actually reach out to people for help, as opposed to like, and I'm sure you've had the same kind of stuff in your life too, like just being an athlete. If it's going to be, it's up to me kind of thing. I got nobody but me to look out for me.
Yeah.
But then you just on an off chance you reach out to a friend or just someone to collaborate with, and all of a sudden the thing just explodes.
Yeah.
Like it was, oh man, let's go from there into this here. Like, who do you have like as a mentor for this kind of thing? Because obviously, like if you're going into football, like you've got coaches. It seems like there's a lot of people outside, let's just say in the business world. And again, I just put myself in that exact position of well, I'm not an athlete, so I don't need a coach. I'm a
Yeah.
businessman or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, how does coaching outside of athletics fit into this, or mentorship outside of athletics fit
Yeah,
into
man.
this?
I think the biggest thing, I give a lot of credit to my parents.
Mm-hmm.
A whole lot of credit to my parents, man. My dad, I never forget it. He said, "Closed mouth doesn't get fed." And my mother said, "If I don't have the answer, if we don't have the answer, go out and find it." So just those things specifically created a mindset for me and all my other brothers and sisters. It's like, you know what? Like, I'm not going to be afraid in any room or any place. If I have a question, I'm going to ask it. I was one of those kids in class, like everybody's like, "Oh yeah, we understand it." And if I didn't understand it, I'm raising my hand.
Hell
I'm sorry.
yeah.
Like, I was just one of those people. And that's how we were raised to be. Like, you go out, you work. If you don't know something, you ask questions, and a closed mouth doesn't get fed. And I always try to keep that mentality, because at the end of the day, you have to find a way to continue to remain a student. It's
Mm-hmm.
real hard to go from teacher back to student, because then sometimes your pride can get in the way and you think you know everything. But it's like a student can always be a teacher, and it can, if you do your best to keep that pride away, you can remain a student and keep learning. You know what I mean? So I just always was like, look, I know that I don't know everything. I had parents who did the exact same thing. I know I don't know everything, but I'm going to go find the answer, and I'm going to continue to put myself in rooms with alignment and like-minded people to be able to get me exactly where I need to go and what I need to do. And even to that point, seeing where my parents are today, doing marriage counseling, 30 years of marriage. From my mother used to drive school buses.
Mm-hmm.
She used to sell cakes out of the house. My dad used to work at Sam's Club. He used to work at Stony River, all these different jobs, moving from Chicago down to Georgia. Like, they raised us to be go-getters,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what they needed to do, having 5 kids
How
before they
long
were
have your
30.
folks been married?
30 years.
30 years.
30
Dude,
years this year.
That hell yeah.
Yeah.
Congratulations, mom and dad.
Yeah.
That's why, because like there's a wonderful parallel in there. Like, hey, we've been doing this for 30 years. I mean, and shit, as as time goes on, a 30-year marriage is becoming more and more unheard of.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I imagine not 100% of those 30 years has been happy and
Oh,
blissful.
look,
Right?
I can honestly tell you that my mother, she was like, they grew up with us. They were, I think my father might have been 30 or 32
Mm-hmm.
in between that time, and my mother wasn't even 30 yet, already 5 kids.
Damn.
So yeah, so it was like we all grew together,
Yeah.
going through those moments of, it wasn't, we stayed in an apartment most of the time, but it was like everything was on the table. We saw everything, we discussed everything in our house. Nothing was off the table to talk about. So it was like we all grew up in a certain manner, growing in our emotions, growing through different situations that happened. Like, all of me and my brothers and sisters, we saw these situations going down, but then our parents would come back to us and be like, look, like, this is how you handle these situations. Even though we might handle it like this,
Mm-hmm.
but we're getting to a resolve. Y'all handle it like this, even to this day.
And that's literally the same thing you want to do with those new players on those NFL
Yeah.
contracts.
Yeah.
Are you aware of that parallel?
I didn't even think about that. You just brought it up, but
Yeah.
it's like I give them all the credit.
And what do
man.
they do now? They're marriage counselors.
Yeah, marriage counselors.
We've been together for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Not 100% of which has been great.
Yeah.
We've made all kinds of mistakes, but we're still here. We are not the norm anymore.
Yeah.
In that, we're still together after 30
Mhm.
years. And for real, like, you're like, hey, I went through, we read it off all the ups and downs of these contracts.
Yeah.
I some of the stuff I did good, some of the stuff I did bad, but I noticed there wasn't a whole lot of, outside of your agent per se, there probably wasn't a whole lot of guidance. There are times where you're like, I'm just pouring over this contract myself.
Yeah.
And now I want to help you
Yeah.
miss the pitfalls that I had. Your parents are like, hey, newlyweds, we want to help you miss the pitfalls that we had.
Yeah.
That's wild, dude.
This business it's almost like I tell some people, and they kind of look at me crazy. I tell them, I want to be a master manipulator to you, in terms of I want to manipulate you into using that other side of your brain, using that different part of your brain that feels like, oh, I can just continue to delegate other things and not know exactly what it's about.
Yep.
No, it's like,
or if all I do is catch a ball, I'll be good.
right. And that's not the truth. And you see a lot of guys who retire, they get stuck in still trying to be the best but when you get to the NFL, it is a business.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the times growing up, I heard the same thing, but other people, I feel like some people get stuck in trying to still like, no, I'm the best, I'm the greatest. Everybody has told me that. It's like, no, like you're going to meet a business.
No.
You're going to meet the business aspect of it. And you're not going to be able to work hard enough. You're not going to be able to strive hard enough. As an undrafted free agent, I'm not an investment to the NFL. I offered myself to go play. I'm undrafted. The people who are getting drafted, they're the investment to the NFL. Like they're getting paid initially for what they did to come play. So it's like everybody else, you need to work for it, but it gets to a certain point. It's like, okay, there's no more working hard that you can do to go against what the politics in the business is. And it takes a lot of letting your pride go in that process. But I think that a lot of guys continuously need to come in. And I think that NIL and all of that stuff for college players is good as well, because you get to meet the business a lot earlier now.
Oh.
Yeah, and I think about it. If guys are making millions of dollars in college, cool. They're meeting business. They're also getting compensated. But then being that young, you're going to mess some of that money up. And you're going to do it early, and it is better to do it earlier than it is to do later.
Yeah.
So
now you mentioned in there, time when you almost, I don't want to put words in your mouth, so forgive me if this isn't what you meant, but what I took from it was like you almost get humbled.
Yeah.
In a sense.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you kind of got humbled in that respect?
100%. I was coming out of my third year. I had just that past year, like, got a few catches, like, did a little bit more stuff on offense. I was much more on the special team side because I saw a void that I could get in and start getting that active check money.
Yeah.
And I was like, look, let me go ahead and do this and give my all. And going into my fourth year after my third year, I'm like, look, it's time to go. It's time to do it. Like, I'm ready to have a bigger role. And they were just like, no. Like it just wasn't happening. And even I'll say I got a couple opportunities and didn't do I did my best with those opportunities, but they may have not been, what the coaches might have wanted to see to a certain respect. But it was like, nope, like no matter what, like we gotta have these guys getting the ball.
Yeah.
And at some point you're going to meet it. Everybody does. And it's always a surprise to people. Like you're not who you think you are anymore, supposedly to them. But it's like it's like an introspective moment to be like, okay, like let me reassess where I need to pivot my mindset and posture my heart at so that I can do what I need to do. And I think that process of me being humbled, and I ended up getting hurt in that time as well. So it started going down. Yeah, it started snowballing, and I had to really get myself together and just be like, look, like get it together. When you get your opportunities, no matter what it is, keep going. I ended up getting humbled again because it was just like I wanted so bad to be, the best and the best receiver. I felt like I worked for it. I felt like but you hit a certain point where it's just like you have to understand, like, this is where you are right now, not forever, but just right now. Even up to the point they were asking me when I was with the Seahawks if I could change my position, and I'm like, no, I'm not doing that, because I can always go back and play. I can play running back, playing receiver as well. But if I just fully go to running back, I can't just switch and go be a receiver again. There's much more technique that's involved. But through that process, I started really having to adjust my mindset and where I was. But I believed in myself, but I also had to humble myself in terms of like, okay, I'm not who they're trying to make me out to be, what I feel like they're trying to do. But okay, I've met a point where I have worked as hard as I can for this. Okay, Penny, it is what it is. Just keep going up, showing up. So in practice, I'm just going as hard as I can. Certain guys like DK and Tyler might be sitting out of practice one day out of the week because they're doing their thing. And I'm just like, all right, like I'm the guy that has to show up, like, and I'm doing what I got to do and just being my best. So you meet moments. I don't even think it's the business of it, but like life kind of just puts you in a place to where you got to readjust. You got to pivot. You got to learn a different way to process when you feel emotional or disrespected or feel like something is not working in your favor, because essentially life is not built for it to work against us. It's actually everything that's happening for us. Yeah.
That was beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, it is. It's funny. Like I literally, so I've started this thing where like I try to write a little bit every day, just a little bit of a lengthy blog post, nothing crazy. And I do it right away in the morning, and it's whatever's kind of on my mind. I've got just a rough idea, and I try and flesh it out into, between 200 and 500 words.
Yeah.
And I wrote something just the other day about how, there are days when, you wake up in the morning and you go through your day, and you might have had a day where like, you only had 60% to give. But if you gave 100% of that 60%, like, and a good chunk of that, and it sounds like you did a fantastic job of this, is literally just showing up and noticing the opportunities. They might not be as big of opportunities as you want, but noticing even a small opportunity when it presents itself, like, hey, like this isn't the big thing that I wanted, but it's a chunk of it. So I'm gonna take that whole chunk. And it just seems like a lot of it was just, I can correct me if I'm wrong, was just showing up.
Yeah. And it goes back again, like it's all about taking up space. You gotta, when you get your opportunities, that is God telling you like you're in position where he wants you to be. Take up the space. Like literally, you're not there for no reason. Be who you are, express yourself, show up. When you have the ability to show up, you have to show out. And you showing out is not you doing extra. It's you actually being there and then going in order of the things that you need to do, because not a lot of people in this world are operating on their truest sense of their own identity. So when you show up and you show out of doing the things that you are and who you are, you inevitably allow that light to shine. So that's what it really is all about. And that's why I'm in the position today to still have so many beautiful relationships with a lot of the guys in the NFL, outside of the NFL, relationships being built with you. It's like that light and showing up never goes away.
Dude, I thought, shit. It's like I'm taking that back. I'm going to give your dad credit for that one, because I like taking up space. That's the same thing as just ask the question.
Yeah.
Is it, what do you say? A closed mouth doesn't get fed.
Closed mouth doesn't get fed.
It's so true. Like we've all been in those situations, and I'm just picturing myself in a classroom. Teacher explains something, you're like, fuck, I don't get that.
Yeah.
Nobody else is raising their hand. I guess everybody else got it. I'll go back and struggle by myself. That closed mouth didn't get fed. I didn't take up space.
Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's awesome.
Taking up space, because like I said, most people are not themselves. So it's other people in there thinking the same thing, but then they're just going to be like, forget it. But we
all went our own directions and struggled by ourselves trying to figure out this fucking calculus homework.
You know what I mean?
I was not good at math.
Me neither. I definitely wasn't good at math, but I learned really well just being able to see and be in different opportunities. All I need to do is see it. And I'm like, all right, that means I can ask this person how to get it. And they can tell me the math of the steps to get there to be able to do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Man. So obviously we're in the DFW Metroplex. Yeah. Again, I came from small town Minnesota. We did have one kid make it to the NFL, and one that made it to the Olympics in wrestling. So that's like my little town's like claim to fame. Yeah. Obviously here, there's a whole bunch more people with, you have a greater chance to run into somebody who's going to, need help in understanding contracts and things like that. Like if someone around, because again, it's DFW Grit, hence the rebranding. Thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I did, because I want it more focused, want it more local. If someone's watching this, like, hey, my kid's kind of getting into that. They're going up to college. They might have an NIL thing. They're coming out of college. They've got the potential to have contracts in front of them. How do people find you? How do people reach out for your expertise, your assistance, your mentorship?
Yeah. My Instagram page, Penny Hart 18. I got LinkedIn, Penny Hart. I got the page at VBC. You can go to the website at vbc.net. I'm everywhere, man. I really am. And a lot of people
space.
look, taking up space. even in the sense of, you know, I plan on being able to do other entertainment contracts as well, like down the line. But right now I'm doing a documentary and a film called What's Next, on about the time where I got a concussion and was on IR with the Falcons and working my way back to end up going and playing in the CFL. Like, and I'm working on the business doing that in that film as well. You know, so I got a lot of different connections in a lot of different spaces. But it's like I said, yeah, to just take up and be myself and be that light. But yeah, people can reach me. Penny Hart is not a hard name to remember. And shout out to my dad. My dad is Big Penny. I'm Little Penny.
Hell yeah,
so,
dude.
You know, everybody can reach me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok as well, Penny Hart 19.
Yeah.
Instagram is Penny Hart 18. TikTok is Penny Hart 19.
Oh yeah, dude. Mr. Penny Hart, I appreciate your time today, man.
Thank you, man.
I appreciate you reaching back out after that meeting at the Scars thing.
Yeah.
Jason Elias, bro, you're bringing people together. So, guys, as always, I tell you every single time we end this thing, you will learn more here by accident, by design, and hell, that's all because of collaboration.
Yeah.
I intend for you to learn by accident because I'm learning by accident, and it's really just about who you know and who you keep in contact
That's
with.
it.
Mr. Hart, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, man.
You guys, as always, like, share, follow. We will catch you on the next episode of DFW Grit. See you guys later.